Over the last few days, the conscience of this country has been shaken. Shaken by a series of tragic attacks on women, starting with what happened in a Kolkata government hospital, the heinous rape and murder of a young doctor that has brought Kolkata and large parts of the country on the street. But we've had attacks and crimes against women in several parts of this country over the last few weeks. From Uttar Pradesh to Uttarakhand to Tamil Nadu to Maharashtra, there are different parts of the country that, like West Bengal, are finding themselves in the crosshairs of crimes against women. They raise several important questions that we hope to address in a very special roundtable. Joining me on this roundtable is Aparna Sen, renowned film director, screenwriter and actor. She joins me from Kolkata, which has been the epicenter of the protests. Lalita Kumaramangalam is former chairperson, National Commission for Women. Meera Sood is an advocate at the Supreme Court who's been raising issues involving gender and crime. D. Rupa is an IPS officer, and Brinda Adige is a women's rights activist. The questions that we will raise today: women's safety, where does the buck stop? Is the police in this country not sensitized to handle rape cases? How does one ensure women's safety in public places? Are tougher laws needed, and how does one install fear of the law? And is changing mindsets the real long-term solution? These are some of the questions we will raise today. I want to start with Aparna Sen because Kolkata, in a sense, is where these organic protests have taken place after that horrific rape and murder in a government hospital. Where does the buck stop, according to you, Aparna Sen?
Rajdeep, I think, first of all, let me thank you for asking me to this roundtable. I think it's important that we discuss this. I also think, I think we have to think of a long-term solution. The patriarchal mindset has to change, but that's more easily said than done. I think that we have to stop certain things like, the way families treat their daughters, the way they differentiate between their sons and daughters. This, of course, everyone knows. This has to stop. Also, all of us who are protesting, how many of us actually believe in and enforce the equality of women in our home, in our familiar surroundings? How many of us do that? Actually, there are a lot of things that need to change. I don't know how they will, but we often say that, the films that we have, the mainstream cinema, often portrays women in an unfavorable light. They objectify women, but it's not only the films. It's also the TV serials where very regressive material is often shown. That has to change. I think schools must take part in it. Schools must teach gender studies with a moral bias. And I think I would advocate something that Tagore had said long ago, Rabindranath Tagore. That is, women should be taught the art of self-defense. He had wanted to start judo in Shantiniketan. I really think that women must learn, not our generation, not even the next generation, but the present generation, the young people. From school, they should start learning how to defend themselves physically.
Okay, you've raised a number of issues, but I want to again get more specific at the outset, which is where does the buck stop? Lalita Kumaramangalam, we are showing these protests of political parties, of doctors, organic protests in some instances that started with what happened in Kolkata. We are now seeing a station in Maharashtra in Badlapur near Thane being ransacked after two minor girls were reportedly sexually assaulted in a school. We had a horrific gang rape case reported from alleged gang rape in Uttar Pradesh. Where does the buck stop? These are three different governments run by three different parties. Where does the buck stop? Does it stop with the politicians, the police, the hospital staff in Kolkata? Where does it stop?
Rajdeep, first let me say that every rape is heinous. Every rape should be, the rapist should be held accountable. And secondly, let me say, it's not a question of just one party versus the other, one state versus the other, one culture versus the other, one religion versus the other. If you look at international data, India does not have amongst the highest rape rates, but that's nothing to be proud about, because in a population of 1.44 billion and counting, the number of rapes that we hear about are just the tip of the iceberg. The buck doesn't stop with anybody. The buck has to include all of us. Primarily, I would say that we lack enough policing. Our police are poorly equipped, including the forensics, the forensic part of it. They are poorly trained, they are poorly motivated, and constantly your politicians, bureaucracy, everybody interfering with the police work. This has to stop. We also have to understand that, when I was head of NCW, this is as an aside, I'm saying it just to show that it's not as if police women are all empowered. I once had a meeting with some of the local police women in Noida, because that's where our office was. And they told me that, Didi, I'm sure everybody here understands Hindi, Didi, hum kya kare? हमारे लिए तो बाथरूम जाने के लिए भी जगह नहीं है. आदमी तो कहीं भी चला जाता है. पानी की बात छोड़िए, टॉयलेट कहाँ जाए हम लोग? पानी ना पिए तो क्या हो जाएगा? So you understand that it's not, I'm not saying that we should give a clean chit to our police, certainly not. But the police needs, we need police reforms. The reforms include not only what I have said, but a hell of a lot more. I'm sorry for the language. Secondly, we need judicial reforms. Look at the number of cases that are pending, even rape cases. Nirbhaya took 10 years. This is with her mother following up. At every stage, you have lawyers who are unscrupulous, and I don't care how big, how small, where they are from, what party, blah, blah, blah. That's just blah, blah to me. We have lawyers who come up with the most flimsy excuses, misusing the law to make sure that the people they are defending, that is the rapists, get away with a lighter sentence, get away because they're minor, whatever. We have judges who say, oh, the rights of the rapist. I mean, please spare me that. I don't know what else to say over that. We need judicial reforms too. We, of course, need what Aparna Senji said. That is an absolute change in my mindset. Even now, in the best and the biggest of families, and I'm not talking just about social status and money, etc. I'm talking about people with actual power, political power, etc. Women are second-class citizens. Women want to be safe both in their homes and outside. Quite frankly, the vast majority of us, even today, are not safe within our homes and in our workplaces and in public spaces. These are the three main things.
Okay.
We need more accountability, Rajdeep. Where are the laws are there. Our laws are pretty good, actually. But where is the accountability?
No, accountability of whom? If I, before you conclude, accountability of whom? You mentioned the police.
Take the judiciary, take the victim. I mean, take the, not the victim. Take the rights of the victim, but take everybody who's involved, everybody in a position of power where they can influence.
Okay.
Whether the FIR is filed immediately. Dharna, your MLA, doesn't matter which party he comes from. Don't find fault constantly if you're in one party with the other party's a state which is ruled by another party. That's not. At the moment, we are constantly doing tutu meme, and that is not helping. Nobody anywhere, no woman anywhere in the country.
Okay, we
really don't have a united stand against this. When Hathras happens, one party will shout. When Kolkata happens, another party will shout. That's not how women are going to get justice. And this is true for the entire country. I'm a politician. I know I'm going to get lambasted for speaking so frankly, but this is the truth.
I appreciate
it's all about tutu meme.
I appreciate you speaking so candidly about this tutu meme, as you're calling it, that there is selective application in a way of our outrage depending on which state it happens in, but you effectively reflected at the political leadership
by everybody, especially the police and the bureaucracy.
Let's focus for a moment on that criminal justice system, because you raised the issue of police and the judiciary. D. Rupa, as an IPS officer, a woman IPS officer, is it your belief that the police of this country is simply not sensitized to issues of women's safety? that therefore there is this delay often in filing FIRs? Where is the problem?
I would say the gender sensitivity among the police has to be constant and continuous. From the time I joined service 20 years ago, gender sensitivity programs have been going on. But then the sensitivity remains for about 15 days, 1 month, and then with the change of so many things, environment, the people unlearn it. I mean, the police unlearn it. So every time they have to be constantly reminded and trained. I do agree that a lot more needs to be done. First of all, our police stations are not very accessible places, that too for women victims. Many a time I tell, if you are stalked by someone or harassed by someone, by a man, please go and report at the police station. That acts as a deterrent. But then there comes a return answer from the victim saying, but that place, police station itself is so bhayanak. It's an environment where I can not easily go and speak my mind or speak my emotions or what I went through. So that definitely needs to be given.
Now, how does that change? Ma'am, how does the asymmetry of power between a woman, let's say, going to a police station, a woman who's been sexually assaulted, or going with her family members to a police station, and there you have men, predominantly men, in their uniform. There is an asymmetry of power. How is that going to change, Nirupa?
Definitely there is asymmetry of power, because the percentage of women in police stations is average around 10%. And that many states have given women representation through women quota, but the average thing happens to be 10%. But there also the sensitivity needs to be there, because they're not professional. Many a time policemen, policewomen also bring in their biases, unfortunately, bring in their stereotypes and ask the victim questions which further victimizes them. Ki tum wahan kyun gayi thi? Why did you go there? Why did you have to go at that late night? What were you wearing, and why were you wearing that? What was your behavior that prompted somebody else to react that way to you? These questions definitely victimize, and therefore I say the number of cases of sexual violence are very much underrepresented, be it Kolkata or Bangalore or any village or Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, and in general in the world.
Okay.
And definitely we need to keep politics out of this, because Rajdeep, not to have my body violated is a basic human right. If you ask me, I will give you shelter, food, and not your body to be violated. Which one would you choose? Though it's not a very theoretically, if you ask which one you would choose, every woman, I think, would choose her body not to be violated. So that comes basic, and therefore food, shelter might still be there. We are spending so much on food and shelter. The government spend a lot on various programs, but women's safety is still not such a priority on the lines of food and shelter. Okay. So that we need to look into.
Okay,
and, definitely.
I take your point, police, but you know, as we said, there is supposed to be gender sensitization of our police officers. Clearly, that's not happening. Am I correct, Nirupa, very quickly, that the gender sensitization programs are there, but at the ground level, at the level of a thana, at the very bottom, the police station, it's not necessarily percolating down. Am I correct? And would having more women police officers change that?
Yes, I wouldn't say everywhere. No, it's not that it's a grim, not a grim situation everywhere. We can't generalize it. But mostly it is like that, because the police also come from this society. They are not aliens. So development does not mean change in gender sensitivity. Development does not mean infrastructure will definitely not lead to acceptance of women and giving their choices and all that. There is a cultural lag. This cultural lag, that is social norms, it needs to change, and it will change at a very slow pace. And for that, we need police, the government, as well as the citizens' participation.
Okay. Let me bring in Meera Sood, because we've looked at policing for a moment. Let's look at the law itself. The criminal justice system. Lalita Kumaramangalam mentioned the Nirbhaya case. It took 10 years in what should have been an open and shut case. We all talk of fast-track justice, but we don't get fast-track justice. Is that a solution, or are our courts simply overburdened that it's so easy in a way to poke holes in a case that is made out by the prosecutors, and as a result, there will be people who will get away or certainly be able to drag on the case for years on end?
Rajdeep, I don't disagree with the issues that have been raised by the panelists before me. They all have a place. There is a need for, of course, more efficient criminal justice system, though I would also say that there's a limit to how fast a fast track court can go, because there are procedures in place that are also there for a reason. Social change and sensitization, of course, nobody can deny its importance. But, I also want to say that women's rights, these basic rights, cannot also be held hostage to when and how society will evolve. There are things that we can do, and I want to highlight those a little bit. There are things that we can do irrespective of how long it's going to take society to evolve.
No, but highlight to me what the courts can do. What can the courts do?
If we have certain systems in place, then, a lot of these problems and those systems are adhered to, and there is integrity to those systems. It is not about, yes, it would be great if our police officers on the ground are all sensitized and feminist. But, even in the absence of that, I would love for them to all be feminists, but they don't have to be feminists. They just have to be doing their jobs. So, some
what can Meera, I want to ask you, what can the courts do? What can the courts do that they're not doing at the moment?
I'm not on the courts right now. I'll come to that. But I think what needs to happen is a mainstreaming of gender rights and gender policy in every single institution, in the design of every institution, from the architecture of a building to, every aspect of every institution that is running. There needs to be gender audits. There needs to be a gender aspect to the functioning and the reporting of every single institution, whether it is, as I said, physical infrastructure, whether it is complaint and dispute resolution infrastructure, internal, whether it is assistance. There are all these things that institutions can and should do, right? Whether it is a criminal justice related institution or a government office, part of the bureaucracy, whether it is a hospital, whether it is anywhere, there are systems in place. Then, that will go a long way. We're talking about things like there are no adequate toilets. There are no, we can look at a lot of, elimination of situational harm.
No, I take the systemic, I'm trying to look for you to weigh in on the issue of the way judges respond to these cases, particularly lower court judges. There's a sense that the lower judiciary in particular does not give the woman the kind of justice that she needs.
So I think there are a couple of problems there. One is, of course, that things don't move fast enough. And there are a lot of those reasons are not necessarily attributable to courts alone. They are also attributable, they're partly attributable to courts and the functioning of the courts and the court culture. They are also attributable to delays on the part of the investigation authorities. They are also attributable to delays occasioned, at times deliberately, by lawyers. So yes, all of those loopholes need to be fixed. And then there is a certain timeline that cases will take regardless of these things being fixed, because certain procedures take time, and there are appellate stages and all of that. There is also an element of not just sensitization, but empowerment, active empowerment of victims that needs to be done, because in part, a lot of the delays come from hesitation on the part of the victims. There is hesitation or lack of awareness in terms of how to proceed with evidence collection. And I think that in terms of evidence collection, we need to focus more on the testimony of the victim.
Okay, I'm going to...
a little less on hunting for forensics, for example, in situations where they may not exist.
Okay. Can I, Brinda Adike, the Kolkata case probably struck a chord because it was in the heart of a big city of this country, in a government hospital, the manner in which it happened, the reactions to it subsequently. But as we've seen, there have been horrific rapes that have taken place in rural India, which perhaps do not get the same attention. Is there a sense that the middle class has to lead the charge in a way, that unless you go out on the street and protest, there isn't that the outrage is necessary in a way, not just when it happens in Kolkata, but when it happens in an Akola tomorrow as well?
Yes, you are right in a way, Rajdeep. But I want to come back to your first question to the first panelist. Where does the buck stop? Now, in mother of democracies, if you want the paymaster citizen voter to come to the streets every time after we have elected our representatives and pay our taxes for them to do their job, why are they there? The buck stops with the state, the elected representatives, and the duty bearers. And like you mentioned, we are looking at a patriarchal society and an even patriarchal system. All the departments, whether you take the police or you take the Department of Women and Child or the courts, all of them are patriarchal. And it is not just the magistrates in the lower courts, but we are looking at magistrates also in the high court. And these cases are not looked at seriously. A case of rape, sexual assault, abuse is not taken seriously by any police station across India. Show me one case where a woman has gone or a child has been taken and the case has been registered at the first instance. Never. Somebody has to protest, some calls have to be made, and only then the police moves. By then, by law, forensic evidence is lost. By the time the case comes to court, we have victims and survivors turning hostile. So the system has to buck up. The buck stops there. Now look at our parliament, 151 self-declared cases are there, all cases related to some form of sexual assault on women. So we have no qualms of electing representatives with these kind of cases. So impunity increases. What is the fear of law that we are talking about?
You're saying there are MPs and MLAs. In fact, the latest ADR report, Association of Democratic Reforms, has at least 151 of our MPs and MLAs who have sexual assault cases against them. I'll come to you, Aparna Sen, in a moment, but Lalita Kumaramangala, we want to respond to that because the impunity comes from the fact that you actually have in this country people charged with sexual assault and rape who are our elected representatives. West Bengal, in fact, is leading in terms of the number who have been charged under crimes against women, lawmakers. But all our major political parties have actual members with serious cases who are in parliaments and legislatures. How can we expect them to really defend our women then?
Rajdeep, I agree with what Brinda says. That the buck stops really with the people who rule and run this country, which is the bureaucracy, the judiciary, and the politicians. And of course, the police. But the point is that it's not just men who vote for other men who have all these cases against them, women too. The value of a woman in this country is too little, of a woman or a child. And you know, rape that is happening in India is not only against women. There are hundreds and hundreds of children who keep their mouths shut because the social stigma is also so much. Why do we name rape survivors? And why do we do not want to name them? Both are equally important questions. We don't want to name them because constantly they are said, "Ayyo Pava," as we say in Tamil, that is, "Are Bichara," you know, the victim. Why call them a victim? Call them a survivor. That would be a better term. The terminology we use itself sometimes, I think, is at fault. There are too many things here that we can find fault with.
Right.
But the long and the short of the story is that it's true that rape is not even considered today amongst the biggest of crimes. We are far more bothered about corruption, which is also a horrible thing, I agree. But rape is somewhere, you know, down in the middle of any list of really important crimes. Look at what money can do. It's not just rape. People's lives are so cheap. You know, and when you rape a woman, you really ruin her whole life in this country, and I think in a lot of other places in the world also. Today we are talking about our country.
You're saying that the system doesn't take it seriously. Brinda Adike, you want to respond to that? You put your hand up.
Yes, I still want to ask the same question. Why would political parties allow for these kind of people to be representing the citizens? Why is it that there is no moral compass or a responsibility? Because there is no right to recall and the power is with those people. And how are we going to tell the others? Where is that fear of law? It is not there.
Okay.
Caste-based rape and murder is rarely taken up even at the panchayat, from the panchayat till the police stations. So we need to address these issues. We need to ask ourselves, there are vacancies. Why is there no budgetary allocation made for more judges, more magistrates, more prosecutors and police. Why is it not possible that these budgetary allocations and systemic gaps and lacunae not fulfilled? We are looking at cases that are coming up today, which is just the tip of the iceberg, like Mrs. Lalita said. We know that there are hundreds of cases that are not reported. 85 to 88% of rapes are committed by people known to the victim survivor. We will use the word victim because they need to get all the support. Let us not tell them now you go and fight because you got raped. No. Victim survivors. The other part that I want to share is what is the problem in us today addressing it on a mission mode? Have a separate commissioner for addressing, like you have a crime branch, separate commissioner, trained, professionally trained, having access and all the facilities for forensic evidence. Fast track it, not simply as lip service.
You're saying creates a complete setup in a way that would essentially focus on crimes against women. But Aparna Sen, the outrage that we've seen in the last week, 10 days, there's a fear that the middle class will outrage on the street, but will equally quickly forget about it and move on to their, to their routine of their lives, the normalcy of their lives. Is that a fear that the middle class, which today in Kolkata is outraging, will perhaps come tomorrow, move on to other stories, that this outrage also has a certain emptiness unless it is followed by action?
Of course, absolutely. It has to be followed by action. But Rajdeep, I want to get to a deeper level. We are talking, I agree with the other panelists that whole lot of systems have to be put in place. There have to be systemic changes and course corrections within the various organizations, institutions, and so on. But how do you, for instance, you have a lot of police, more policemen, more magistrates, looking into these things. But how do you ensure how that magistrate, how that policeman has been brought up? Has that policeman seen his mother or his sister being treated equally? Has he not seen sometimes his mother beaten? These are things that we have to question, because this is at the root of the problem, the very root. And we have to go there. Today, because a doctor, because a doctor was violated and killed in her own workplace that she thought safe, we have all erupted in outrage. But what happens in families? Most of the rape takes place in families. Cousins, uncles, brothers-in-law, even fathers-in-law. Women cannot say a word. What happens to those cases? What happens to the Adivasis? I mean, look, if a child is not safe in school, what do you say? The janitor, for instance, in the Badlapur case, that janitor was there. Janitor had no business to be there. Okay, what were the school authorities doing? And why is, look, how is the janitor brought up? Just look, go deep into the root of the problem.
No, but for example, the prime accused in the Kolkata case is a civic volunteer. He is someone who's been working with the hospital. What does it say about the hospital authorities? What does it say about our systems of fact-checking? Perhaps what does it say about the background of this man who reportedly, according to his wife, had actually abused her and she had filed complaints? So here is someone who apparently is a sexual predator with an animal instinct. These are words that have been used in a psychoanalysis of the man, who was a civic volunteer and thereby had full access to the hospital. So there are people around us who have this dark side to them that perhaps reflects, as you said, in the way they are conditioned at home as well.
They do. Indeed they do. But look, about this case, so many facts, so many new facts keep coming out. We've had a lot of information overload, forwards, messages, videos, what have you, coming from, sometimes they say the doctors, sometimes the nurses, sometimes the medical staff, sometimes the people around. But nothing is verified and the case is sub judice. So we can't really say who the culprit is. We don't yet know.
No, but
We
sure,
don't yet
that's
know.
part. Isn't
But
that part?
absolutely, the systems
Isn't
have
that
to
part
be in
of the
place.
problem that we live in this age of misinformation, disinformation, fake news, post-truth society that perhaps makes it even more difficult?
It does. Social media and all of that. But the thing is that people are so upset that they really want information. So they will snatch at whatever information they can get, and they want to keep up with what's happening.
No, but is
I
their
can't
anger a
blame them
sign
for
of their
that because we
powerlessness,
all feel
ma'am?
this sense
Is
about
their
it.
anger a sign of their powerlessness? They know that they can't change the system. The system has political
I
leaders
think
who
so.
they...
I think so.
So it's a symbol of powerlessness in a way.
Yeah, in a way, but there is this sense here in Kolkata that we feel that people are going to go on protesting. They're not going to stop. They're going to go on protesting until this crime is solved and until the doctor who died gets justice. This is the attitude of the people in Kolkata now. How long this can go on, I don't know, because they're daily wage workers. The streets are completely blocked. The traffic is it's terrible. You can't go anywhere. At the same time, the protests actually need to be there. So it's a very, very difficult situation here.
Sure. D. Rupa, I come back to the police officers because the police officer on the ground is the one that I would trust to provide me security. But if that police officer himself or herself is in some way conditioned to not appreciate a woman's state of mind, her concerns, then nothing's going to change on the ground. You've spoken at the start about sensitization programs of police, but do these sensitization programs reach the last mile? The constable, the person on the beat, they are the ones who really need to be sensitized.
All ranks in the police are exposed to these programs of gender sensitization, but it has to be, as I said earlier, constant and continuous. Police have to show promptness and sincere response, which is many a time lacking. Once you get the complaint, register an FIR, because registration of FIR itself is not any hanging somebody. It's first information report. Even there, many a time police hum and haw in registering FIR.
Why? Why is there a delay? In all these cases, we are seeing a delay in registration of FIRs. Why? Why is there a delay in registering FIRs?
Because the police are not taking definitely seriously, because they do, as you said, they do not put themselves in the shoe of the victim. They think देखेंगे कुछ हुआ होगा बाद में ये शायद compromise कर लेंगे पता नहीं क्या है. These things, that is on one hand, and secondly, the political influences or any influential person ringing up and saying dekh lijiye and all that. So giving in to political interference in an unprofessional manner is also the reason.
Have you experienced that personally, political interference in cases like this?
In the response.
Have you witnessed political interference in cases like this?
Definitely. Many a time when the victim comes from a very influential background, when the perpetrator comes from an influential background, a lot of police stations get calls. Don't do the case, don't register. Nobody is involved. I mean, ye ladki hi kharab thi, and all such spices they bring in.
Can I turn once again to social media in a way, Meera Sood, because a younger generation is often getting information on social media. There is information which is of a positive kind, there's information of negative. There's also a feeling that today there are YouTube videos where pornography is easily accessible. Some believe that's a concern. There are conservatives who believe that needs to be clamped down upon. Are these all genuine concerns, or are we simply running away from the real problem, which is the way society is conditioned?
I mean, I think, look, all of these also go into conditioning society. We cannot ignore the fact that today a large section of society, particularly the youth, is conditioned also by social media. So, and if we can't escape it, however much, some of us may want to, we really need to look seriously at how we can use it to our advantage, how we can, put out the right kind of content, and how we can curb disinformation. And it's that's a topic on its own. I mean, that is a topic for a whole other debate. how do you curb misuse of social media, and how do you curb fake news and all the rest of it without clamping down on free speech and dissent. That's a whole other issue. But the fact is, it's part of the conditioning. How we families, schools, all of it, conditioning is everywhere. It's not even just parents, it's everywhere. And there's sometimes very often parents can do little. And of course it is also a conditioning that is not just, as I said, not just in terms of gender relations, which is of course the most basic issue here. It is not just in terms of gender relations, but also in terms of a certain impunity that we see because crimes across the board, not just gender related, but across the board, institutions don't function properly. Justice is often delayed, if not denied entirely. Money can buy your way out of money, and power can buy your way out of most things. So we need to look at these two things in tandem. That is also part of our conditioning, that we do not believe that institutions will ever come after us.
But the institutional problems will require massive reform, police reform, judicial reform. But let's look at simple issues, Lalita Kumaramangalam. And I refer both to Badlapur in Maharashtra and in Kolkata. The fact that you have a young doctor who perhaps goes to a seminar room to rest because she's been on duty for 36 hours. I saw a letter written by a young doctor in a Safdarjung hospital, which has been published, where she speaks about the prejudice that she faced in the hospital from her male superiors. There are hospitals which did not have separate toilets, she claimed, for women. And then you have in Badlapur, in a school, where again, a young girl perhaps has no place to rest. She has no place to go to a toilet. Is the infrastructure itself heavily weighted against women at all levels?
Rajdeep, I think you're giving too much credit to infrastructure. There hardly is any infrastructure in this country for women. As I told you, have you seen the police on the streets, the guys and the women who do the daily beat? They have no water, they have no toilets. It starts there itself. In schools, toilets are very often very dirty, even in some of the big fancy schools. When I studied in a very big school in Delhi, nonetheless, the girls, when we have our periods, etc., it was a huge problem. We don't have access to medical facilities if we need them. We don't have, we are not taught to talk about our physical self, for example. Forget about periods and sex and things like that. We are not taught to even stand up for ourselves. Somebody puts their hand on our breast and we back off and mutter under our breath and this thing. But how many of us even today have the guts, and I'm saying us very consciously, have the guts to talk about it, not just to the person who did it to us or to our close friends, etc., but to the authorities who can take any decision to, punish that person. Most of violence against women, abuse against women goes unreported. As Brinda said, over 80%.
No, is that because of fear? Is that because of fear?
People we know.
Is that because of fear? Is that because of gender prejudice? Is that because of asymmetry of power?
It's not because of any one thing. It's all of them put together, but a lot of it is still up here in our head. The way we think that women still are, I wouldn't even say second class, somewhere down in, in the class citizens. And even today, it's about financial inequality. It's about inequality. It's about a lack of power. And this is not going to change overnight. It cannot change overnight. But we need to have better accountability at all levels. Police, politicians, bureaucracy, in schools, colleges, everywhere where we work, etc.
What do you mean by, give me an example of what when you say accountability, what do you mean? Give me an example where you believe, how would you make someone accountable, let's say in a school or an office? If a woman complains of sexual harassment, we have the Vishaka judgment, but we've often seen that the judgment itself has not necessarily led to dramatic change in many workplaces. So how do you ensure accountability?
Yes, because the woman herself gets fed up of waiting for something to change. She makes the complaint in the hope that immediate action will be taken. They don't. The first thing is to question the woman. Did you dress properly? Why were you there alone? Why didn't you complain before? This chap has done it to you before, etc., etc., etc. Like the filing of an FIR. When a woman makes a complaint, FIR is only in the police station. When you're in a school or a college or at home or at work, you don't go immediately first to the police station. You try to go to your boss or your friend. And okay, you have to go to a superior. Does the superior even listen to you? There itself, there is no accountability, Rajdeep. For example, in your TV studio, I'm not saying it, please, this is not a personal thing. I'm just giving an example. Okay, let's talk about that school. Or look about even the RJ car thing. Look at how the principal got away with it. That fellow was not held accountable. It was after public outrage that he has now finally been sacked. I mean, this is what I'm trying to say. Nobody is held accountable.
Right.
We say, yes, the chief minister must resign. Then every chief minister in India will have to resign. I'm not saying it is a joke. If I had me, I'd have said, let them all resign.
Okay.
But again, like I say, I'm going to probably be torn to shreds even in social media after this tonight. But the point is not that. The point is nobody is held accountable.
Okay.
It's not one or two.
Aparna
Sen, you wanted to... The principal has been questioned. No, in Archikar, the principal was questioned by the CBI after a lapse of how many days? Why are... you want to call them victims, fine. Victim survivors, why are they named when you know that social approbation is going to, kill half their spirit? Everybody just wants to go and hide somewhere after seeing the reaction from people. It's almost always and it's always, almost always and mostly against the survivor or the victim.
Okay.
What was she doing there? Why was she wearing this? Why
can I just get Aparna Sen, you want to I take your point, Lalita Kumaramangalam. Strong words that you are using. Aparna Sen, you raised your hand.
I think that the women who are privileged and empowered must stand up for their for other women who are not. It's very important to do that. For instance, something very encouraging just happened in Kerala, in the film industry, in the Malayalam film industry. Over there, they formed a committee. I think 10 years ago, they started a HEMA committee. There's this actress called Parvati. I cannot pronounce her last name. It's difficult for me, a Bengali. But, that has been recognized. They have made reforms in their workplace possible. They're really working hard towards it. And I think women everywhere must actually, start this sort of thing, so you're saying that's a
solution. That's an idea. Whether it's women doctors, whether it's women in the film industry, come together as a collective that then ensures some systems are put in, put pressure
on. Yes, it's very important. This HEMA collective has really worked.
Okay. Brinda Adige, give us any other successful example.
It's called the HEMA collective.
Give us an example that you know of where women have been successfully able to push back from your experience.
That we do on a daily basis in the places that we are working, Rajdeep.
No, I'm asking
There are collectives of women standing up for women. But I also believe that we need to take in all men to stand. It is not just a women's battle. It's not just a group of women fighting. We have to encourage everybody to speak up. Because we are a society that continuously silences women, continuously tells women that if you don't talk about it, you're a good woman. And men will be there and some of them will make some statements. But we want men to be party to this entire battle. We are not saying all men are bad and all men are good. No, we are saying that somewhere in the silence, when men don't raise the issue, it's okay. It doesn't matter. So that is not what we want. We want them to talk and speak up. We want children to be told what is good touch and bad touch. The moment they were able to understand words and they enter into any kind of kindergarten. Even today, we do not want to talk about it, saying that, let me not corrupt my child's mind. We were talking about onslaught of information. That mind has already got corrupted and confused. We need to now steer that information so that there could be weighing of it. Social conditioning is totally missing. We've somewhere along the line forgotten about all of that.
Yes,
that social conditioning also is our responsibility. But at the end of the day, institutional responsibility and accountability, nobody can absolve themselves from it. We must hold them accountable at every level.
Lalita Kumaramangalam, you raised your hand.
Yes, Rajdeep, when I was in school in Chennai, in a Catholic school, we had something called moral science. In between, I think it was called value education. We need to bring this back into schools. I know I sound very old-fashioned perhaps and quite out of sync today, but children are not taught what is right and wrong. And children at a very young age, we need to start teaching at home, but more importantly in schools. And in any educational institution, any training institution, etc., when you're training the bureaucrats, the doctors, etc., lawyers, value education, for want of a better word, has to be part of the curriculum. It has to be drummed into our head again and again and again that this is simply wrong. You should not try it even if you think you can get away with it. It doesn't matter what social media says. It doesn't matter how rich, powerful, etc. you are. Wrong is wrong. And we need to start shaming people who are doing wrong. Regardless, we don't do it.
You had also raised your hand as we come to we got a couple of minutes. You wanted to make a point, ma'am.
Yes, about accountability specifically. Please look at the people who are in the Vishaka committees. Who heads them? Generally, the people chosen are those who will not be, who will toe a soft line. These things are the ones which we need to change. And any untoward incident happening, hold the members of the Vishaka committee at workplaces, hold them responsible, take some action, take out their increment. And same with the police. If there is any rape, then hold them accountable, take some punitive action. That is one part of accountability.
So you're saying there needs to be exemplary punishment. I mean, I sometimes wonder whether tougher laws are needed. How do you otherwise instill fear of the law? There's been this entire debate, Meera Sood, over capital punishment. Is that a solution? Clearly, it doesn't seem to. There have been cases where people have been given capital punishment, but it doesn't necessarily work as a deterrent. Are tougher laws the answer, or is it a need to ensure certitude of the law?
I don't think tougher laws are the answer. I don't think capital punishment is the answer. I mean, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a tumor. Frankly, I mean, that's the analogy that I can come up with. Our laws are quite tough.
Should there not be fear of the law? You don't think fear of the law works?
The fear will come when systems are implemented, when the law is enforced, when every stakeholder in the system acts with integrity, and when we have a culture of law-abiding citizens. Also gender-sensitive citizens, but law-abiding citizens at the very least.
Aparna Sen, this entire debate started with, obviously, was triggered by what happened in Kolkata. You've been someone who's seen Bengali society over the years, observed it closely, depicted it in your cinema. Has what has happened become a wake-up call? Do you believe it's taken people out of their sense of somnolence? There was a feeling Kolkata is among the safest metros in the country. All of that has been brutally awakened in the last few weeks.
Well, it's awakened, but how long it will be able to continue, one doesn't know. Because, people have to also get on with their lives. They can't be on the streets protesting forever.
But do you see some? Are you hopeful? Are you hopeful that this is a moment that will change the way that will bring change? Are you hopeful of that? Is this Kolkata's Nirbhaya moment?
Well, what can one do but hope? No, I really feel that, I don't even, as Barkha was saying the other day, there's no point in calling them Nirbhaya, Abhaya and making them appear fearless. I mean, that's in a way really romanticizing them. But really, I think that there has been a wake-up call. There has been a wake-up call also for governments, I think. It's not just...
a government headed by a woman chief minister.
People protesting.
It's a government headed by a woman chief minister that needs to wake up.
And now the government is being held... The government is being held accountable by the people.
Right.
That is a good sign.
Okay.
That in itself is a good sign.
Let's leave it there. Accountability is the buzzword that we've heard from all our panelists. Somewhere down the line, unless you are able to fix accountability and thereby force people right down the system, politicians, judicial officers, police officers, and us in civil society, to ensure that accountability above all else, women of this country will perhaps in several public places still remain unsafe. We need exemplary punishment, but we need to ensure accountability and, yes, in the long run, social conditioning above all else. I appreciate my guests joining us. You all are all women who I hope will continue to speak up loudly and fearlessly, because we need more voices to speak up. Thank you all so much for joining me on this very special roundtable. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Jai Hind. Namaskar.